Welcome to visual journaling for stress relief and spiritual growth. Today, in this session, I am focusing on collage. And the way I'm going to set up my journal page today will be to have a page for written journaling and a page for collage. So I'm actually going to start. I don't always start with putting any background on, but I am going to start with a background today. And I'm going to use some watercolor. So I'm going to go ahead and prep this side of the page with some watercolor. Before I do that though, I want to actually share a focus theme that might help guide you in, well, hopefully will help guide you in creating your collage and possibly for, depending on how you want to do it, your writing. So even though I did want to set that up, I do want to start on this page first. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my box journaling page in a way that's comfortable for me. I usually do 4 boxes. I usually have the date somewhere, and then put the like the date and location, and then boxing up. So I have a list, a space for writing, a space for a small drawing of some kind, and then the 4th box is a bonus free-for-all, a continuation of a list, continuation of drawing, continuation of writing. I'm also, the way my brain sets up, I like to make my lists long. So, set this up the way it feels comfortable for you. I've got some stuff on the other side that's making my page wrinkly. And then I'm going to just set up, let's see, 1, 2, 3. And I'm just going to set it up like that today. So the theme that I'm focusing on for my collage and that will ultimately inform my writing is core values and beliefs. So there's a lot of different places where you can get information about core values and beliefs. And I'm going to put a link to this page here. It's a website called Soul Salt, and talks a little bit about core values, using your core values and defining. They have some classes. I don't know anything about these classes and workshops. I chose this page as an example because they have a couple prompting questions to start thinking about what are your core values, thinking about people that you admire, role models, what is it about them that inspires you, their admirable qualities, behaviors, and actions that they engage in, that you would like to be doing with your life, and then things that inspire you to action. What are your feelings that motivate you to speak up? What are you willing to risk, and the results of taking that action? So these things all come into what your core values are. And then this third one, what do you feel most like yourself? So when something's going wrong, what are your triggers, or who are you with that causes that to happen? The emotional expense. And then on the flip side, situations where you feel authentic, where you feel like you're really living into your core values. Who are you with when those moments happen? What are the activities, and what are the outcomes, the positive outcomes? So some of those questions might become part of your writing activity. They could become your 4th square, however you want to do that. And then they list a whole list of different core values. There are others. This is not an extensive list. This is their list. But it was a list where you could start. So I thought I'd put that out there. And I'm going with a label for my list. And in my list, I'm just going to list, I'm going to start with, I think I'm going to start with 5, and then I will focus maybe on 1. So I'm also in my list, I'm going to leave room for sublist. That feels very, so I'm going to spread this out a little. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm just going to list mine. Start there. And now that I have that list, I think I'll probably focus on creativity. And so the reason I wanted to pause and start with the list is because I wanted to pick a color for my watercolor that I feel goes with creativity as the core value that I'm going to explore in this collage and in my writing. So watercolor techniques. Watercolor is meant to be translucent. So stained glass window, light comes through it. There are a lot of different watercolor techniques out there. And there are a lot of different kinds of watercolors. The ones I'm using are a fairly middle grade set of what they call semi-moist or moist liquid watercolors, pan watercolors, which just means that they, when they are in the watercolor pan, so even though there's no water on the purple, it's still tacky, and if I press hard enough, it's going to come off on my finger. It never fully dries out in the pan. So you can get watercolors in the tube. My watercolors that I get in the tube, I have some Winsor and Newton, and they will dry completely. Some of them are also semi-moist. You got to sort of look at the labels. And even though my green is not completely dry, I am going to go ahead and add this pink, knowing that it might go a little bit purpley purpley brown on me because green and red are complementary colors. So that's wet on wet when they are going into each other and bleeding into each other. Wet on dry. So when you put the paint down, allow it to dry completely and then add a layer over top. It may reactivate the paint underneath, but it's not going to bleed into the original color the same way if it's already dry. So that just felt like it matched creative for me right now. I'm just gonna let that dry. And then while that's drying, so if you didn't want to do a background or you wanted to use a dry material like marker or colored pencil, that's also fine. Or if you just wanted to leave it plain. So hopefully you have a collection of images. If not, take a moment to dig into a magazine, dig into a catalog from a museum. I got a donation of magazines, and so I have a variety here. Best of Northern Virginia, the topic changes each month, so this one's going to have some food in it with best restaurants. Oprah's always going to have a variety of stuff. Let's see, what else do I have around here? I had a catalog. Ooh, there's a recipe one. Food, it always resonates with me. And I'm going to go grab a catalog real quick. These Nova Dog magazines come from, oh shoot, did I? No, I moved that over, okay. Come from the grocery stores, pet stores. Again, they have a different theme each week. This catalog just came. So you're wanting to, if you have not already done the curating collage, you want to sit down either with your collection or with a magazine and looking through, finding words and images that resonate with you, that speak to, in this moment, the core value that you chose to explore. So you're looking for something that just shouts at you. And right now, well, it's nice woods. This one might make a nice background. So it's nice to have a variety. Having a background, sometimes if you don't start with a painted background, you might want to start with a larger background. So that can be good to have. Also finding words. Are there words that pop out to you as you're flipping through the magazine or the catalog, or maybe you have a membership in an organization where those words speak to you, because sometimes words become part of what you're writing, what you're collaging. Now, flowers. Oh, this is always so hard because there's going to be something on the back that's just as good as on the front. And if you're just doing a session of collecting, depending on how you want to organize your time, right, you might cut out a little more closely. You might cut a little more roughly, leaving space around the objects that you cut out. It's always so hard when there's something equally exciting on the back side. And then as I'm cutting, I'm noticing that the one above it, well, the colors didn't catch me. The name of this tulip is Artist. So, well, yes, you have to be cut out. So, I'm just gonna look for a couple more things. You really don't want to glue onto a wet paper. Cutting, for me, depending on how long you want to save your, if you think that it's going to be useful again later. So like if I just want this word, I'm going to cut out the whole strip, and then I keep a little paper bag at the edge of my workspace here, and I can just drop the scraps into the work bag or into the little paper trash bag there. If it's something in the middle of the page, I will usually pull the whole page out if I think that that page is done for, right? If I can't add anything to the page, or I can't cut anything else out from the page, sorry. Then I might just take the whole page out of the magazine if I'm going to keep it. So like this one, at some point I cut something out of here, but the rest of the page has potential for something later. Now, I want the word delight. I'm going to pull the whole page out of there because it's going to leave a hole, and it's just not inspiring to me. So I'm just going to flip through a couple more pages here. Peach cobbler with buttermilk ice cream. It's creative, right? Superior cheese. All right, I want that no, I don't. I take it back. And I don't know if I'm going to use everything that I cut out right now. I'm probably going to get more from the things that I have in my stash. So. Chocolate always makes things more creative. Pretty sure. Chocolate and coffee, right? And you could make a sort of meditative practice of just cutting out images and words. I'm going to stop myself because I can sit and just cut for really, really long amounts of time. So, this, where did that water come from? Wet does not go well with collage, so I'm gonna dry up that wet splash. And we're back in the screen. So this tulip was one of the first things that I saw that called to me, so I'm gonna put that out there. Somehow I got water on everything. So I keep this little bag that I got with all sorts of stickers and fodder, things that I collect, that plant kindness. Ooh, I want to actually put that right there with the humanity. Things that I've collected, and so, and I'm just gonna start putting them out there. Wine is good and creative. I tend to sort my collection, so I've got an envelope of words, I have an envelope of large things, and these are like objects, and then I have an envelope of people. So I may add a few things in here. You can see, what do we have? Ooh. And I'm just sort of just plunk them out and start moving them around. So here's one that I cut closely around it. This one I didn't cut quite so closely. So if I decide to use that, I'll probably be trimming around the edges. Stickers are another thing that I collect. So I've got this little bag with stickers. If you have done any scrapbooking, this is like a vellum paper that has words on it that I got from scrapbooking. So I might pull in that. And I'm just looking for things that speak to me in this moment about creativity. And clearly it's still wet because it's causing things to curl. And then I'm going to start to move things around, rearrange. I will take things out and put them back. If I don't think I have enough stuff, I'll go back into a different magazine. So for this, I'm just gonna start rearranging them to try to find some balance and harmony. For me, that's part of the meditation. It's a bit of a stress relief to just move things around without the pressure of it's got to be perfect the first time, because other than I'm trying to create something that expresses creativity, I don't have to, yeah. So if the flow for you is going to be disrupted by having to do something like cutting out around because you want to have that nice crisp edge, then I recommend you make sure you cut out as you collect, so that wait, it's just, I could paint over it too, but so thinking composition wise, I can think about using the whole page like a grid and dividing it into so I might think about like this, right? Here's a grid, and I'm going to try to make a focal point in one of these, at one of these intersections, and everything else happens around it. Now that means I could make it very grid-like, or it could be sort of circle-like. If I am sort of, you know, if your balance and harmony is a triangle, very stable, you might work on something where things are doing more like this, right? Now I've got, hey, right? So now it's sort of, my composition is, right? And maybe that means that these other things that I just pulled off don't fit in there anymore. I don't know. Again, coming back, there's spiraling, right? So, and which way will you spiral? If you spiral, you want to, if you're going to organize things, are things on the spiral going around it? Are they inside of there? Are they in the spaces around the edge? So yeah, trying to think what else. You might think about, if it's more of a landscape style, where is the horizon line? So is the horizon line at the middle? Is the horizon line going to be up high. And I could do this here too, right? I could bring everything upward so that everything's happening above the middle of the page, above the 2/3, above the, or below, right? I can flip it. I don't know which side, so thinking about that, and these work vertically as well as horizontally, right? So if you think about horizon line, sort of as a organizer, do you want your pieces to be close in and clustered like this, or are they going to be spread out more? If I were to spiral this, I might leave those at the center there. She might lose part of her leg. No, that's not going to show up against that. Let's try him in there. That makes me happy. I really kind of like that camera up there. I feel like this for me is getting kind of close. As this is organized, I'd probably trim off that leg that doesn't fit on the page. Bring this down a little. Right, so then gluing it down, I can either take all the pieces off and start from the bottommost layer and work my way up. The gluing part is going to be sort of up to you and what feels comfortable to you. I tend to take things off maybe one or two at a time, so I have an anchor piece, which might be this tulip and these stripes. And I would glue them down first. This is still just a little damp. And then I would start to, and I just move things to the side. Oh, hey, that kind of works. I just accidentally blew that over. But that helps direct. No, that has to stay there. Okay. I like the juxtaposition of her foot and that. So I tend to just move things over. So if I'm going to start with this tulip piece as an anchor, I'm going to move her over. I'm going to move her over. Gluing on magazines that you're done with. So if I'm going to set this magazine free, so though I know somebody is screaming, no, I want that helicopter. Don't glue on the helicopter. I know, it happens. But I like this because then once there's glue all over this page, I can just flip the page over and also noticing that I've centered this down more or less in the center of the page. Does it matter which direction? I think it actually does. Visually for me, I want the darker on the left and the lighter on the right. And Let's see, what would be next? This piece. Let's see if this glue holds this. I might have to get out the Yes glue. Might need some assistance to keep it down later. This is going to go next. So I would keep gluing, and once I've finished gluing, then I'm going to use this as a prompt for the writing on the other page. And I might come back and I might define what is harmony, what is generosity, what is creativity. I haven't decided, so I'm saying this as I'm saying it as I might, because it is an option. I might put examples of people who I think are exemplars in each of those. And then I'm gonna start writing in the writing area, and documenting what do these core values mean to me in this moment in time, right? Because I think our core values shift and change, and the priority, I think they're ones that stick with us, right? But there are things that shift and change. As we develop, as we are brainstorming new ideas, as we have new experiences, as we meet new people, all of these things, as we see examples from our heroes, our mentors, to that make us question those people as our mentor leaders. These are some nice things, by the way, if you're collecting and find things like this. This is great as a background for a smaller type of background. I'm just tidying these up because while I live in some creative chaos, I like to be able to find things when I want them with minimal frustration. My drawing box may end up being drawing one of these things. So, and I'm sort of debating if I want to put this in here yet. That idea of pouring out. Ooh, maybe it's this way. I'm gonna have to play with that. Maybe I want to cut her out a little more. So I might go, and in my drawing box, I might be drawing my favorite mug for water, or drawing a little self-portrait with my art tools, or a drawing of my camera, or a drawing of my favorite yoga pose. Drawing of my favorite flower might go in there. whatever, you know, inspires me as I'm going through and drawing this. So I hope you have some fun creating your collage, curating your collage collection, the things that will potentially become future collages. Something else, if you wanted to play with the idea of the collage a little bit more and the drawing part of it, if you wanted to maybe make this big space you're drawing and the smaller space, just do a short amount of writing. The artist Kimberly Kelly Santini did a journal through it exercise in collage, and where we created these collages in our page and then did a contour line drawing, so collaging the collage, or uncollaging the collage. And now it's there's still surreal and abstract, but it's not individual pieces anymore, right? So if you were interested in playing with the larger drawing and where to go with that, so I encourage you to spend some time finding collage items that resonate with you and then just pushing them around, pulling them around. Ooh, what if that water glass actually goes down there? See, these things happen. And it's not really squirrel. I mean, it is squirrel, but, right? It's also, the discovery does not have to happen quickly, right? The creation does not have to happen quickly. I feel like I've got spiraling happening. So, all right, happy collaging.